What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and this is episode 109. Today in the show, I was joined by Robb Laffoon, and I know some of you guys are going to be sitting there. Who the heck is Robb Laffoon? Well, chances are 99.9% chance I feel you've seen him on your FYP on TikTok, whether it's pop punk, elder emo content, the Warp Tour kind of predictions. You've seen this guy, and it was really cool that Robb reached out and wanted to come on. And anytime I can connect with someone through the community of TikTok in the music loving world, it's amazing because this podcast is community. It's building community. And I know while Robb is not a musician currently, it's really cool to get someone's take that also grew up in the scene like I did. We talk all about Alkaline Trio and the importance and our mutual love for them. We talk all about how he knew he was going to go on this path in music and how he knew it was going to be special. And we related to a lot in that. We both wanted to be like Carson Daly. And I remember us having those conversations via TikTok. We touch on the importance of Warp Tour, how it's coming back, who we think is going to be on it. This was recorded back in February. So obviously there's a couple people like Magnolia Park that were announced. So just to throw that out there. But we also talk about how music really helped Robb during a really difficult time. And that's what it's all about. So there's a lot in this one. This one was a lot of fun. It's a little different type of guest, but I think you guys will really enjoy this conversation. Here's my conversation with Robb Laffoon. So the first question we ask everybody is, how did you fall in love with music? Like, what was it? Was it a record, a time, a place? What was it that you were like, this is really special to me?
I had a feeling you were going to ask this because I've, watched other ones and I like thought about it. And I actually had like an existential fucking crisis thinking about this.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was born in Hawaii. And my parents were like all over, they just like, we moved a lot. It wasn't military, just like young, degenerate, like they just weren't finding what they're looking for. But like, I was babysat by a metal band, first off, like those are my
Wow.
babysitters. But then like, as I get older, like, everywhere, no matter where I went, because like by the time I was 13 or 14, I went to, seven or eight different schools and different, in California, Oregon, Alberta, Canada. And it's like I'm always the outcast. So like music was just kind of this thing that was like, okay, well, people from here like this, people from there like this too. Like that's the way like I can almost like get in with people, you know what I mean? Like that's something, and then like once I saw like TRL, and MTV,
Hmm.
like the Blink video, What's My Age Again was just like, which says weird things about me, but that really like, oh, I want to do that. Like when I was a kid, I never even thought like, oh, I'm gonna be like a scientist or a teacher or like a nurse or like a normal job. It's like, oh no, you play in bands. That's what you do. Like it's just what people do.
Yeah, that's how I was. I was never that. I wanted to be again, like I know we talked about like once or twice, like Carson Daly. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
same thing. I was like,
I
I'll be the host that talks about it, maybe. Like if I'm not the band.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, my high school senior thing was like, hey, do something what your project is. And I did a mock TRL thing. Like, that's what I did.
Sick.
I wish I had it. I'm like, oh, my high school teacher. And like, so like things like that, when I would tell people I went to art school for music business and that failed because I was like, I'm not spending 100 grand on like this career that I can just maybe do myself with networking. I don't need to spend 100 grand a year to do this in Chicago. Like I don't need to do this. And as wild, people would always look at me like that's weird. Like, why don't you want to be like a teacher or like something that like one is going to pay money,
Yeah,
but two,
never crossed my mind.
no, I'm like, it's just what I want to do. And then like leaving that too. And then it's like, oh, I can figure this out and just like go to shows. And that's all I did. And they're like, you're young, 20 something. That's all you're doing. You're not. But again, it just the path you take. And I like Blink sees for everybody. And I think everyone can pick like an era of Blink they love the most. Like for sure. Like for me, it's
Yes.
take off your pants and jacket. That was it for me for sure. That era was like, because I also had to hide the CD. And my parents were like, "We don't want you to have
Oh.
this." The cover of it and the meaning of it, and I was like, "It's Blink. It's
I didn't get the meaning of it until like 3 or 4 years ago. I swear to
same."
God. Like I never got it. Mine was enema, like, but for
Hmm.
some reason, like that was okay with my parent. Like my mom would see the video. I think she thought the video was funny, so she didn't have a pro. I guess there wasn't enough swearing in like the singles for her to notice, and I don't think the cover bothered her that much for some reason. So
Yeah, I didn't obviously I'm like being a girl at that age. I was like, I didn't know what this meant. I was like,
I
I don't
would, yeah, I was an 11-year-old boy. I should have understood the reference, but I did not. Like,
yeah. No, it was like hiding those CDs under my pillow. My parents, and then finally were like, "Oh, this band's really good." They were like on Conan, Jimmy, like whatever it was, and they're like, "This band's really good." I'm like, yeah, I have that CD. Like it's tucked under my pillow because you guys wouldn't let me. And then I felt like, okay, it's all right to do that. And obviously, I know you were in a band. So is there anything going on with that? And
no, I'm retired.
I figured that. I'm like looking
I'm
through
musically
Spotify.
retired. I'm musically retired. I just talk about other people's music now.
Yeah.
Um no, I'm too old. I wish I could, like, if anyone is watching this and they want to just like go make like a punk band and just like play all over LA, I'm down. But like the amount of work to, like, I take things too serious, like in the sense of like I'm not like a hobbyist. So like if I started making a band, like even like writing a song like at home, like I'll come up with something, I'm like, that's cool, but I'm like, well, if I'm not going to go to a studio and record it, then like what's the point? And if I'm going to go to a studio, what's the point if I'm not going with someone who's been nominated for Grammys or something? Like, I did that one time, like I should do, like I just like I have like, well, I did this one, so it should be at that level, and it's just like it's dumb. So like, I've messed around. I'd like to, but like, no, I think I'm better off rambling about it than I am playing it. Like I'm a better promoter than I am like performer.
Yeah, I should say The Wild Young Hearts for anyone listening or watching. Like, if
Yeah,
you go check it out, it's on Spotify because I was like
yeah.
trying to see. I'm like, let me see. Like this
If
is
you
actually
listen to it
pretty
enough,
good.
if you listen to it enough, I'll be able to take my kids to McDonald's. I'll have to
There
use
we
the
go.
app to save some money using the codes. But like, yeah, I would appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tag it, whatever. Like, just go
No,
do
yeah.
it. But a band I noticed too that you've talked about too on your TikTok, Alkaline Trio. It seems to be a big band for you. What about them? Like, what about them kind of made an impact for you?
So I'm 9 when I find Blink, right? When I see TRL, and
Yeah.
Blink is my favorite band, like just kind of de facto. It's not, like 9, 10, 11, 12. Like that's my band. Some other kid points out to me like, oh, like, that's punk. Blink is punk. And I bought a Punk-O-Rama CD, so I started getting into punk rock. And then like I guess I heard Alkaline Trio on the Tony Hawk soundtrack, and Alkaline
Hmm.
Trio kind of perfectly just blended like what I liked about Blink, but with a little more edge to it. And I'm like, this is dope. So I have this one song, I have Armageddon.
Hmm.
And I'm just, repeating that song in the game. And then spring break comes, and I lived in Alberta, Canada. So I'd have to fly from Alberta to San Diego like every school break. So it's Easter, and I'm in San Diego, and I remember it's like fucking raining, which it's rarely raining in San Diego. It's raining, and I go to the local like record store, and I had like $13 or $12 or something, and from here to Infirmary, which Armageddon's on, was like
Hmm.
12.99 or 13.99 or something more, like with the tax, I couldn't afford it. But Good Morning was right there, and it was 9.99 or 10.99, something where it's like, oh, I can buy this one. So I bought it, and I swear to you, like I got on my bike and I put it in my Discman, because this is like a year or two before iPods really pop off. And like when the first like This Could Be Love starts and Matt Skiba sings the first time, like I lost like my train of thought, and I veered my bike into the sand, and I wiped out, and it was like a whole thing. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I just
Yeah.
rode around listening to that one song, and then I made it to the next song, and then the next song, and just like, and then the next day I went and bought the next one, and I became obsessed. And like through high school, like I was just like the Alkaline Trio kid. On my
Hmm.
18th birthday, I got an Alkaline Trio tattoo. And then I went and got like two more before the year was done, as if like the one wasn't enough.
Yeah, no, that's like it's even think Good Morning. I think about that. Like I liked obviously being like 30 minutes from Chicago is like you had to like them no
Oh,
matter what.
yeah.
But like Good Morning was that. It was like Skiba's voice, and I know he said it's because like he blew it
He
out.
was
He
he was sick.
surgery, he was
Yeah.
sick, but like I love the way it sounded. I'm like honestly, I'm like that's my favorite Alkaline Trio record. Just I know everybody loves the other ones. I'm like something
No,
about that one.
when I turned 18, so when I moved to San Diego after high school, in Canada, we didn't have like debit cards like they have in the States here, where it's like a MasterCard or Visa. They were just like, you couldn't use them online basically. So the first
Yeah.
thing I did when I opened an American bank account was I joined the Alkaline Trio Blood Pact fan
Hmm.
club. And I got to go to like the sound check in San Diego, and I met Matt. And like the first thing I said was like, I love your vocals on Good Morning. It's my favorite album. You know, when I first
Yeah.
heard it, I crashed my bike. He's like, I fucking hate that. I don't like that. I don't like that album. I sound terrible. I'm like, no, you don't, brother. Like, it's the coolest anyone has ever
No.
sounded on a record.
He is so kind because I was in the blood pack too. And like he literally, I randomly saw them at like some cafe in Chicago. I think, what was that record with like the seven on it? It was
This
green.
addiction.
Yeah. So
This
that
addiction. Yeah.
record, they were recording it and in Chicago, and I was at like some
Yes.
cafe and they walked down and they were in the cafe and I was like, I really want to go say hi, but like I don't want to bother people eating. I have a rule. So like I didn't, but I was kind of was like peeking over like, okay, that's for sure them. And then like later I won some like radio show or something and you got to have pizza with them and they did like a 3 song set. And so I went ahead and do that. And I randomly said, like, hey, I was scared to meet you. Like, I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to say anything. And he was like, what's your name? And I'm like, but I got nervous. So I said, Lisa instead of Lisa. So he's like, oh, it's nice to meet you, Elisa. And I was like, oh, God, like he thinks I'm Elisa now. And it's the kindest guy. And he was like, literally, as I walked away, he was like, seriously, bother me next time. You are not bothering me. Like, don't worry about that. And I was like, it stuck with me. And then, like, literally, I think I ran into them at like a Warp Tour signing or something. And he had remembered me. And he's like, oh, hi, Elisa. And I was like, I'm never going to get out of this. Like, that's Eva for the rest of my life. And I've never corrected him. I mean, I haven't seen him like face to face in years. So it's like, he probably has no idea about this. But like, if I ever saw him again, I don't know. I'm like, I think I would just keep my
Matt
name.
is the nicest human. I got to see them
Mhm.
after, so it's like 2010 or 11, let's say like 11. So I think it's a little after this addiction time. And like the band has been on record saying like that record was a bad time. Like they all just started getting too drunk and stuff again. But Matt
Yeah.
played like a couple small acoustic shows in Southern California and or all California because I think San Francisco, but he played in San Diego like at this bar and I went by myself like after work. Like I had my backpack with like my busboy gear in it and stuff. And I bought him a beer like before the show and I bought a second one. And like, you know, it's super small. It's just like there's 50 people inside this place. And I'm like right in the front. And I befriended this one guy there and they did Armageddon and they had the one guy get on and sing with him, my buddy. And I guess halfway through the Stella started talking. I'm like, I got to get up there with them.
Yeah.
And like, so I jumped on stage behind him and I'm like singing on like, it's on YouTube. And every now and then I just kind of go watch and shed a tear because I'm just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I'm up here
Oh,
with Matt. And I'm like, and then a couple years later, I moved to LA. I'd see him a couple times just because he lived in Hollywood at the time. And I'd see him
yeah.
around and like I'd honk my horn and like, no, you know, Matt. It's like he'd be like, hey, I know you. And I'm like, you do? Really?
Oh, they remember because Derek was similar.
Derek
I
was the best at that, right?
he literally how I became, I don't want to say friends, but acquaintances with Derek was he did like this thing where he would be like on Yahoo or like maybe it was AIM, something Messenger, and I was on and we were just talking and whatever, and he was talking with a bunch of fans, and I was so excited afterwards. I accidentally sent my excitement back to him. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? It was, I had to be AOL Messenger because like the timing of it. And he responds back to it like, because I was like, oh my God, like I didn't mean to send it to you. I'm so sorry. Like I was just really excited we were talking and like it was awesome. And he was like, oh, don't worry, I'll see you around. And I randomly at that meet and greet, he was like, hi Lisa, how are you? And I was like, he's like, oh, you don't, I remember you. I'm like, okay. I was like, whatever. He probably says that. So then like, the next time, I think it was the Warp Tour one, and he literally told my friend, he was like, "Oh, you know Lisa?" And I was like, "How the hell like do you remember me? Like I know I go to shows." And he's gotten me into so many different shows because he would randomly just be like, I would be on Twitter and I would say like, "Hey, I didn't get a ticket." I wouldn't even say to him. He would see it because he would follow me
Aw.
and would get me in. Like he was just hands down, and not even just get me in. It would be like the VIP, so I could go up in the balcony and like the kindest human. And I know he took a break with like mental health reasons and everything, but just that
Yeah.
they're the kindest people
No,
ever.
and I remember too, like, so I joined the Blood Pack in '08. This is like such weird niche gossip, but like there were,
Hmm.
you remember like his wife was very active at the time, and then they like got divorced, and it was very active on there, and it was like, oh, we're seeing, you know, photos of Derek, you know, he's holding hands with this woman now, this and then it's just like
Hmm.
even like you know like they're not that big of a band but the fan base is kind of cultish like and especially like you know in the like he lived in Indianapolis at the time I think
Yeah.
like Midwest area, like it's smaller. There's only so many celebrities in Indianapolis. Like I'm sure he like that probably played into the mental health stuff as well. Maybe I don't know because you remember before he left like permanently a couple years ago, he like the last after the Is This Thing Cursed album, that tour he wasn't there either. Like,
Mm-mm.
and
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I tried because then like I know he had got remarried and that was actually his wife that like she added me on Twitter too and she would like message me too anytime I needed tickets, which was a weird thing. I was like, what the hell is going on here? This is like weird
That's so weird. That's
life
cool,
thing.
but it's
But she
yeah, it's
was
like
so kind. Anytime she would be like when I broke up with like a boyfriend, like she would see me. She was, "Oh, I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, don't like at the time, like she like was way older and but it was just really cool. But I remember that too. And I know I've tried to like just message him, like not to be weird, but be like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I know
no,
he
yeah.
doesn't check that stuff, but they're just the kindest. Like Matt, like he's signed so many things for me when I've seen him. That's just like the kindest band ever. And I know that they're not everybody's favorite, but I'm like, they're my favorite
It should be,
forever. I
yeah.
mean, they're just so good. It like obviously besides Alkaline Trio, your content on I know you're like on YouTube now, but like TikTok is like the elder emo, pop punk, nostalgia stuff. What made you kind of decide to like go that route? Because it's huge now, like it's everywhere.
Yeah, it was an accident actually, because like I started doing like stand up last spring, like about a year ago. And so I made a TikTok for that. And I was just doing very like general, just degenerate humor, just rotten stuff.
Yeah.
And like even stuff where I'd use like sound clips and stuff like that, I wouldn't really use, every now and then I'd use like a pop punk or an emo song, but mainly I wouldn't just because I'd be like, that's too weird. And like the people
Hmm.
that are seeing me and liking me, like they're like truck drivers in the Midwest and stuff. Like I don't think they're really, they'd like it more if I used Creed or something.
Right.
And like like I was doing a lot of working with a lot of companies on there, promoting, working with like pouch companies and like and just doing this and that. And then like I just kind of would be like, well, these people already are following me, they know me, I can maybe be like post some stuff like I'm more interested in. And I would every now and then slip in a music thing, and I would just like, okay, like people know about that too. And then as I just started like going on, it was like, if I'm gonna put my face on the internet so much, like I'd rather be talking about something I really enjoy, and also something that is like even like the negative stuff. Like if I post something negative, it's like usually like in a very joking way. Like right before this, I hit post on like like, oh, bands that are red flags, but it's like I'm joking
Yeah.
around. Like I put Alkaline Trio in there. Like Alkaline Trio is a red flag. Like come on, listen to us. Like this,
Yeah.
we're three red flags out of five. Like,
Right.
but like when I would talk about like even comedy stuff, or like I'll talk about, like during the football season, I'll talk about the Chargers a lot, but like it just like attracts a lot of negativity for the sake of negativity. People just being like, that sucks. Like
Yeah.
Chargers suck. And just it's like, what are we doing here? Like, why,
Yeah.
but it's like with the music stuff, like I make a post, like unless it's like brand new related or something, like
Yeah.
it's just people being happy. It's like, oh yeah, like I enjoy this band from this thing. And it like it's not negativity in a sense of like trolling or actually hurting people's feelings. It's discourse, and that's really nice.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too in your comments. For the a lot of time, it is just discourse. Like you'll see people, even brand new, because it's hard. Because that's one of my favorite bands. I have a brand new
Yeah,
tattoo. It's like,
yeah, I got
it's
one too.
they're so good. They're so good. And it's like for me, it's like I get it. I understand. Like if it's not for everyone, and people have a certain view, but like don't attack people. Like I was messaging with I think her name is Jezzy Joe, and
I
I'm
was
sure.
literally gonna say right now. Yeah, I was gonna say your thing,
Yeah,
and then at the because I was gonna say the same thing where she messaged me too, like after brand new post, and she was
yeah,
like people treat me so much more differently than they'll treat her.
yeah. It's
And like
wild.
I never realized that like until she said that. And I was like, this is like white boy privilege. Like nobody's making threats to me, and she's telling me like the shit people are like sending her. And I'm like,
Yeah.
send these people my way. Like y'all aren't run your mouth at me, like
Yeah, like it's wild. Like when, that's even me, if I'll repost something, the people be like, "Oh, how can you? You're a girl and you're pro survivors." And I'm like, listen, like I get it, but like for me, I'm one of those people that can separate. There's certain artists, no, like obviously Lost Prophets, like no. But like brand new, I can separate that. And if you can't, you can't. But like we got to be able to talk about it. It's part of the scene. You can't just erase
That
part of the scene.
that's what's tough too, and that's why like I'm recording stuff right now for YouTube and stuff. Like on TikTok, even the comment section is short. It's like I don't want to say something that's going to come across wrong. Like I don't want, but it's like this conversation deserves more than 140 characters, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like with like okay, like yeah, separating art and artists. Like okay, what about like forgiveness too? Like that's like a big thing, like not in like a a Jesus-y way, but in like a legal system and like America way, like second chances and like and like yeah, I mean, Lost Prophets is different. So I never listened to them in the first place. I didn't
Yeah, me
realize they were
neither.
so
Yeah.
popular. But like we need to be able to forgive, I think, to a degree as well. Like there needs to, but in the same sense that people want to say like, screw that band, like, or they want to go outside the shows and protest, like, brother, that's your right. Like
Yeah.
I agree with you there too. Like I get it, it sounds wishy-washy.
But it is, it's true. Like, honestly, and I've said this before, whether people love brand new or not, if they were to announce and if there was anything to come, it would
Sell
sell
out
out.
immediately.
Sell out immediately. And like, if you don't think that, I'm sorry for you, but
No,
like, it's going to.
it would sell it one and two. The internet makes things seem bigger than they are, but in the real world, most people don't care about the internet stuff. And that,
Hmm.
like, in terms of this conversation, that sounds harsh, but that's in general. It's like, like I'll say, like, bands that should have been bigger than they were. And people are like Coheed and Cambria, like, Coheed and Cambria is huge. Like, yes, in our world, but if you go stop 100 people on the street,
Yeah.
95 of them don't know who they are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they're big in our world, but like I'm like Taylor Swift is big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maroon 5 is big. Like Blink-182 is big. Like Cody and Cameron is they're successful.
Hmm.
But like with brand new stuff, like I mean I'll post about brand new and people will be like, I don't know what happened. And there are people on the internet
Yeah.
like if they announce that tour, it's gonna sell out with people that don't even know about the allegations.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so many people, like even my friends would be like, well, what are you talking about? And like Coheed, like you just said too, like I know, like, yeah, in our world, they're big, but there's so many people I know that like even my age, it's like if I tell them like in their mid 30s and I said, oh, I'm going to go see this band play. Who? What
Yeah.
do you mean who? Like they're huge. But yeah, no, you're right. And like I will notice some of those posts you make where some people will say that. And I'm like, yeah, like even me, like I love the movie life. I can't tell you how many people
Yeah. Oh yeah.
no idea are like, who's that? How do you know? What do you mean, who's that? Like back in the day, and like you can argue like now they haven't really, I mean, they put out like a record, I think in 2015, but it didn't really do that well. But like for me, it's like they're so important to the scene, and how do you not know them? But
No,
again, they're
but
just, that's what you're
it's
saying.
important
Yeah.
in our scene too that only like two or three bands broke into like the real mainstream. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
as big as Brand New have a number one record. Like were they ever in the mainstream even? Like I mean, it's Fall
Yeah.
Out Boy, it's Panic, it's Paramore. Like those are the
Yeah.
bands that are and My Chem.
Oh yeah, like even people when I bring up Paramore, it's like their Paramore is like Riot. And that's what
Yeah,
and people torched me on the one post I made where I ranked the Paramore records. And I'm like, I had no idea this was gonna blow up. Still to this day I get comments and it's like at 15K, which is wild to think about. And like people are like, how could you rank this low? How could you do this low? I'm like, well, that's Paramore to you. Like I personally think their catalog, in my opinion, some of their best records are not Riot. Like Riot was special and it's a massive
that's
record,
cool.
but people wanted to kill me on that. Like we can be different. We can talk about this. Paramore is huge. It depends on when you came in or what you love. A lot of people don't like the latest Paramore. I do, but it depends like where you're at and if you like that version of Haley Williams. So,
I liked After Laughter, but I wasn't as big on This Is Why.
no.
I think it's one of those. I think it's like a mood. Like you got to be in the mood for it, maybe. And
Yeah.
I haven't put it on at the right time. Like our planets haven't synced.
Yeah, but there's love for After Laughter. So I love that you said that because I love After Laughter and people torch that record all the time. Like there's no reason. This record is good. I'm sorry. It is
They
great. I
just
love it.
they just don't know like the Talking Heads or something. I don't know because that's what
Yeah.
it's like. It's Talking Heads Paramore. It's great. I don't know why you guys are upset.
But again, it's probably the age, right? Like if you're some young girl, you're like, who the heck is Talking Heads? Or even on like This Is Why they cited At the Drive-In. Like there was a
Yeah.
part of it. Even people like that I know, they have no idea who At the Drive-In is. So it's like, I get it, but I love it, but it
And
is. But I mean,
it's fascinating too how these bands have been able to maintain like younger fan bases too, because like same thing, like I get a lot of like Fall Out Boy and stuff like that, like in my Twitter just feed, like for you. And it's like how many young people are there are, because to me it's like these are old people bands by this
mm-hmm.
point. Like if you're
Yeah.
18 years old, this is like the equivalent of us like going online and arguing about like Alice in Chains and stuff like that, and just like, shipping like Kurt Cobain with Lane Staley and stuff. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
surprised it's caught on, same with like with Panic as well. Like I don't know how these bands managed to have such a good like second run almost.
Yeah, yeah, Panic is like that's for me. Like Panic was 2005, seeing them in some little place. I'm glad they're so huge, and I'm glad for them. But it's like, how are they still this like bigger, if not then, when they were really relevant? And now it's like Panic is huge. Like I know they're playing When We Were Young, and people are freaking out about it. And like, dude, I remember like 2005 Pure Volume, listening to Panic at the Disco and like scrolling on Pure Volume and just wild. Like, yeah, Fall Out Boy. It's wild to think like they are considered that.
It's because this is the last great rock and roll movement of
Yeah.
history. You know what I mean? Like before that, there's like genres that like shift, they like shift culture, like youth culture. Like, yeah, like there's been popular rock bands since, but like for the most part, kids dress like rappers and or like influencers now. Whereas like in 2005, 2004 to like oh 07, oh 08, 9, 10, like kids were dressing like MySpace bands. Like kids were
Yeah.
dressing like they're in the Warped Tour. Like it very directly influenced style. I mean, and it influenced other culture. It influenced like street culture as well. Like, I mean, Kanye West was wearing stunner shades. Like where the hell do you think he saw that? Like he saw that at the Warped Tour, like
Hmm. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
it's
That
like 80s rock, same, like the hair metal stuff, like that, a lot of it was garbage, but like it shifted the culture. People still dress like that, like they associate that era with that, grunge, same thing. It's like the kids start dressing like these things, like it kind of changes the world in a small sense.
yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Somebody was on recently and how MySpace kids, like it's almost like they're coming back, like in their area, like or Hot Topic kids, not MySpace kids, Hot Topic kids, and like legit Hot Topic kids. And I was like, that's wild to think about because even Hot Topic doesn't look like Hot Topic like it did back then either. So it's like,
No,
I don't know, but they're like, yeah, no, they're like coming back. And I was like, I don't know, like all the neon and
I
the
see
like
the kids
tails.
like all the time, and it kind of wigs me out a little bit, but like kind of like gives me like a sense like all the time you're like I have a mall across the street and you'll see
Yeah.
just like packs of kids and like they're all wearing black and like they got their skateboards and I'm just like you kids look like trouble. Like it's awesome. Like we still
Yeah,
exist out there. Like there's
right?
still kids out there causing problems. Like okay, cool.
Yeah, no, and it's like almost getting into the scene too with like things like TikTok and like something I love that you're doing right now is like the Warped Tour predictions. And because I think that there's a lot of discourse about Warped Tour, right? Like there's so many people that are like, "Oh, this lineup suck. All these lineups suck." And I get it because you bought a ticket, you thought it was like the Warped Tour, maybe you saw like other people go to. And like when I first went to Warped Tour, it was like 2004, 2005. So it's like, yeah, I got the Fall Out Boy, I got the My Chem, I got Paramore even in like 2007. But Warped Tour was like not just this big nostalgia fest. And I
No,
think so
and
many people
and
are upset at the lineup and
and at that time, my chem wasn't my chem, and
no,
those bands weren't those like Fall Out Boy wasn't Fall Out Boy the way they are now. Like that, they weren't bringing in Green Day in 2004 and Blink and stuff like that.
no.
Like they weren't like it was for everyone else.
Yeah, like even Mike Hem, I saw them on some small stage. And then the year that Three Cheers came out, that's when they were on the big, massive main stage. They were not starting out. Like they were on some stage nobody even knew, like, who is this? And then obviously they knew. And same with Fall Out Boy. Like Fall Out Boy was on a bigger stage, but they only played 1 year because then they blew up and they were like too big. So I think it's like crazy some of these kids. I just wish like so many of them would realize that Warped Tour was about discovering those new bands. Like that's what you're
Yeah,
seeing.
there's no headliners, there never was, and price wise, no
Hmm.
matter what you're paying for you're not paying when we were young money. You're not
No.
paying Coachella money. Realistically, you're paying the money to see four shows basically. And over that time, you're going to get four shows worth. Like it costs $100 to walk out your door now. So like a couple
Yeah.
$100 on a 2-day concert where at the very least there will be five bands you already enjoy very, very much. And hopefully there's five more that you don't know as well, but you could find if you took 3 minutes out of your day. You know what I mean? But it's nostalgia bait, like just fest stuff is just so like prevalent now. Like everything is very nostalgia based. Everything like, even people see like, oh, it's gonna be this. It's like, brother, these are 20 years ago. That's like
Right.
2004. They're announcing Warped Tour, and people are like, hell yeah. Like, I hope they got the Police and Winger on it. Like, no, like,
Hmm.
you're not the youth anymore. This is a youth thing. Like, this is for younger people.
Yeah.
And okay, like these newer artists, like, you don't know them. Like, I'm 35. I'm not supposed to know them all. If I knew them all, they wouldn't be cool or I
Right.
would be weird.
Yeah, like it's one of those things like people forget like the target was always like 18 to 25-year-olds for Warped Tour. So they are fitting
Yes.
that. If you look at that, you're like they are fitting that right now. And of course like today, I think the other day I saw Silverstein is going to be on it. They are bringing back some of those big bands, but a lot of the younger ones they're bringing on. Like I know I saw Koyo today. Like there's bands that are going to light that path for the scene. And I think like even talking to Matt Batiste about like nostalgia is great, but if the scene's gonna thrive, we need these younger bands to kind of do that. Cause like, My Chem's not gonna play forever.
No,
They're like, or even Fall Out Boy, at some point they're gonna be like, all right, we're done.
there needs to be like passing of the torch moments and things like that, and all these bands, it's not in the band's fault, it's in the fan and society's fault in general, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Blink has tried time and time again to make you guys like be like, oh, All Time Low is the new us, or like
Yeah.
then 21 Pilots or this or that. Like they're trying to get people over essentially, and same with Fall Out Boy. I mean, that's what Fall Out Boy did from the beginning with, Decadence and stuff like that, or
Hmm.
Decadence, or
Yeah.
like that's what you're trying to get those next generation over, but just like people start clinging so hard, which has always happened, I think. Just like I think companies just market so well to it now that like there's these options so anything else doesn't compare. Like remember when we were young, the first flyer came out, like you
Yeah.
guys, everyone thought it was fake.
Hmm.
Like
Oh,
it's too good
everybody
to be
did.
true. Yeah, right. Like, oh, this can't be real. Like all these, and it's like, okay, they pull it off, and like that's a cash grab, but they pull it off.
Hmm.
Warp Tour, I think, and maybe I'm insane here in thinking this. I think Kevin Lyman, I think the people in charge of it, they value the brand and the legacy and the IP of Warp Tour too much to like totally bury it on a cash grab or to totally like sell out on what made it Warp Tour, you know?
That's what I'm hoping. I haven't had my ticket yet. I'm not going yet, but somehow I'm like, I'll weasel my way in like to DC or
Yeah.
figure that out. But it's one of those things that like I hope they bring back the kind of like all the different booths of like the nonprofits will read Warp Tour or the signings. That would be really cool, like to have those things. And I get it. Like I've never been to When We Were Young. I know people loved it. For me, I'm like, it's too expensive. I'm like, I don't want to see these like short 30-minute or, sets and all that money just to even get to Vegas for me, right? I'm like, it's not worth it. And I
And
even
there's
think,
also a case there of like over promising, under delivering, where every year
yeah,
that's happened a little bit, you know?
yeah.
Like I know this last year bands dropped out and the whole thing was like these bands are playing these albums, but they have 25 minutes. So are they really like,
Yeah. And I don't want to spend all that, like, just especially like I was heartbroken to hear. I mean, I wasn't going, but like the Distillers. I'm like, I would love to see the Distillers. I want to see Brody up there. And when I saw them drop out, I'm like, okay, well, then I guess like in a way, I'm like, I figured that was going to happen because at the time, too, the bands were probably like, oh, yeah, we'll sign on. And then they're like, oh, well, we don't have to play this record. Well, no, like if you want to get paid, you have to play that record.
yeah.
And even this year, I like the lineup. I think they are struggling a little bit because the nostalgia is kind of like, all right, am I really going to pay this? Well, look at Warped Tour for 2 days for almost half the price. I can go to Warped Tour and I can experience, yeah, not the same bands, but it's cheaper. Like it's not going to cost me $300-400 for like a day or whatever when we were young is. I don't know. It's a lot of money. Like I'm like
It's a lot of, yeah, it's like 400 plus. And it's, look, if you live in somewhere, if you live in a place where you don't have access to these things on the regular, like I understand I'm spoiled, like every
yeah.
single person on the planet's going to come through LA twice before they go anywhere else, Like I
Hmm.
can see it, but like, Like I lived in Alberta, Canada, where like the one thing that came to town or like came within, 10 hours was Warp Tour. And it was like, okay, like we can go to this. Like if you're a 30 something millennial and you live in the Midwest or somewhere else, like I understand when we're young, this is your chance to see everyone at once.
Yeah.
And I understand the appeal of that. And that's targeted towards like older people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
think Warped is trying to be targeted towards us as much as just like we're all just suckers for the nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, is there anybody that hasn't been announced that you would like to see announced on Warped Tour?
Of newer acts, yes, there's a couple that I was hoping for, but I don't think it's gonna play out. I was hoping for Magnolia Park in LA or Long
Yeah.
Beach, but that's not gonna play out. I'm interested to see them live. I'm not huge on all their records, but I've been following them and they're good at the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Blink plays in LA, or
Yeah.
in Long Beach, which is cool just because it's Warped Tour. It'd be neat to see them.
Yeah.
I want to see. There's this female artist. Her name is Busy,
Oh.
and I feel like they are bringing in a lot of these newer female artists. It reminds me of like when they brought in Katy Perry. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a punk energy inherently into female pop artists. I think, especially now where a lot of them fit. And you see like a lot of they're announcing a lot of like female, like more than they ever have before, which is a big
Yeah.
deal. I would have liked to see her on it, but I don't think that's going to happen. However, of bands that like I could still see being added according to my many, many projections, which by the way, I projected Motion City Soundtrack about a week ago in DC and it came
Yeah.
true today.
I know. I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's you knew they were gonna probably jump on. I didn't know where, but like that, I saw that today. I was like, all
Yeah,
right,
it just
another
yeah.
band.
I do think there's a chance we get Alkaline Trio added, possibly in Long Beach as well. I don't know for sure. But one band that I do want to see that I've never seen and has I think played the Warped Tour more than anyone or has played like the second most is Less Than Jake. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they're gonna get added. And I went through a long phase of my life where I was very averse to ska. I think I was embarrassed by it, but like I have
Hmm.
to embrace that like I was a ska kid. Like I want to go skank in the pit
Yeah.
to some Less Than Jake.
It's so funny even bringing them up because I did this thing. I don't know when it's coming out, but like with Unsigned Pop Punk, and they did this Warped Tour thing, and I didn't even know it was. He was like, "I'm gonna give you a category, and you're not gonna know it. We're gonna come in Zoom, and then you have to name as many." And I was like, "What am I gonna get? Like, please just don't give me metalcore. Don't give me like anything like that." He was like, "All right, I want you to talk. How many bands have played Warped Tour?" And I couldn't repeat them, and I couldn't
Oh my
either
God.
repeat them, look at anything, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I ended up getting, I think, like he said, 63 without like messing up. But there was one question where he's like, all right, this is a bonus one. Who played the Warped Tour more times than anybody? Like the most. I was like, I don't know, like Bad Religion. Like, I don't, I'm trying to think like who have I seen? And on the tip of my tongue, I was like, damn it, it's either Bad Religion or Less Than Jake. And it was Less Than Jake. And I was like, I'm kicking
Yeah.
myself because I've seen them so many times at Warped Tour or like with Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte on that little tour they did. Like I've seen them and I was a huge Less Than Jake fan. And now I would love to see them come back to Warped Tour because they're just fun. They are just such a fun band. And I think even if people don't know them, they're gonna have a
You
good
have a
time.
good time. You have a good time. Yeah, no, that's for sure. You're gonna have a better time there than you will at like a random like metalcore band you don't know.
Hmm.
If that's not totally your scene, like you can take a normie to a ska show for 30 minutes and they'll have fun.
Oh yeah. No, and I'm like even seeing like bands like the only thing I ever had against Warped Tour was when I felt they didn't protect women enough. And that's a conversation for another day and kind of like the environment it was and like bands like Attila. Like when I saw Attila on, like I understand that's for everybody. Like they were part of that wave that was like those metalcore bands that had all those shirts and just
Yeah,
bro metalcore
there was
like
a moment where like in like the 2000s, like we would like kind of ironically do the rapper stuff.
yeah.
And like there's Punk Goes Crunk and things like that. And then at some point, like the like Franzilla, Ronnie Radke guys came along,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of became like, no, we actually don't respect these hoes. And it was like
Mm-hmm.
No, no, brother, we're missing the plot. Like this, the whole gimmick here was the opposite. Like this is,
Oh, yeah. I have to be careful with Ronnie Radke. Anytime like I am like if I type his name or whatever, I'll never do it because his fans are crazy. They went off on
yeah,
me once. Like I think on Rock Feed. I don't know, forget what they did, but I said something. I didn't even type Ronnie Radke. Like I did like an asterisk or something because I was like, I don't even want this to show up.
no,
People came after me and I literally was like, I am deleting my comment and I am just like, forget it. Like it's not worth my time. Like if anyone's listening, they're a fan of him, that's great. That's fine. Not for me. And his
yeah, do your
fans are
thing,
crazy.
yeah,
His fans, I'm
yeah,
like, that's not for me or my vibe. I somehow do think that like, who is he with now? Not Escape to Fate.
falling in
Well,
reverse.
yeah. So I somehow think they're going to be on Warped Tour. I somehow think
I
so.
I think they're only available for the last date, and
Oh,
there's going to be
damn.
a lot of the Orlando one, which a lot of those will be announced towards the end because they have, was it Rockview in Orlando? They have another
Oh, yeah,
festival
that's
that's kind
right.
of holding up things with the radius clause. To touch on you mentioned like the women's safety thing.
Yeah.
I think them doing the three locations and them having being like one shots as opposed to 6 weeks of like summer camp on the road.
Yeah.
I think that is going to lower that quite a bit. I think when it's a traveling circus, you get people that aren't supposed to be on there hopping on buses. You get like, I mean, I had so many random friends, like girls I knew that were like 18, 19, where like they would just kind of, oh, they're working with this nonprofit, and then they end up like, I mean, they're in Mississippi and sleeping on random buses, and it's just like it's like, it's like when you went on a school trip or something like that, and you guys all stayed at a hotel, and things started getting like things get weirder than they would in a normal day job, and
Yeah.
it's like that's 6 weeks of that. These people are immature. Most people are younger. Their brains aren't working right. They're hot. They're sweaty. They're in close
Yeah.
quarters. Like this doesn't add up well.
No, I even remember being like 17, 18, and I'm not going to throw this band under the bus. They had asked a group of my friends and I like, "Hey, we have a kegger, like let's go to this kegger tonight. You guys want to go?" I'm like 17, 18. I'm like, "You're at least in your 30s and like, no, I have no business doing this." And all my friends were like, "Oh, you're lame. You're being lame. Like, why don't you go?" And I'm like, "No, I just have I have a bad vibe of it." And it was like just weird to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I looked 17, 18. There was no way I was like, they were like, "Oh yeah, she's of age." Like, well, technically, I guess in Illinois I was, but I mean, still, I'm
Yeah, yeah, no,
18. Like that,
yeah,
I had no business hanging out with like a 30-year-old band guy going to a kegger,
no.
like at some party. And it's like things like that. And I do think you're right, though. I think with it being separate, 2 days, this many dates helps that because I
It'll
do
be
think
more professional.
yeah, like because yeah, I want to go. That's all I want to say. I want to go somehow. Like whoever's listening to this, sponsor me, sponsor Stereo Therapy, get me there because I want to go to Warped Tour. Get me in there. Get someone like you, like someone that knows that scene. That's who you need. Like you need someone like that, not just
There's too
someone.
many. That's when you asked earlier why I started making emo. That's really one of the reasons why, right there, is I would keep seeing these things, and I would, especially before I would see these things, the like TX2 looking stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like making a mockery of it. Like it wasn't all just like hot topic eyeliner weirdos. Like we weren't all like that. And like
No.
then you see these ones. It's like, can you name all 10 of these emo classics? And it's like all time low. And it's like these 2000 emo classics, like all time low. And then it's
Yeah.
like Basket Case by Green Day or Time of Your Life or something. And like Blink and Linkin Park and Evanescence. And I'd be like so bothered. I'm like this is my culture. Like,
Yeah.
like like this, you weren't actually there. Like I can tell. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Love Is Blind on the other day,
Oh
and
my
she's
God. Yeah.
watching Love Is Blind, and I just hear this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I was into skate punk," and I'm like, "No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
tell. I could tell you
Mm-hmm.
weren't. You're not
Oh
one of
yeah.
us."
Oh yeah. It's like one of those people like on TikTok when it was like the rage of are you an emo? And you would see these people do it. And I'm like, no, you're not. I can tell right
Yeah,
away. You're not.
yeah, and
You're
it's
not.
playing like "Say It Ain't So" by Weezer and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? This is you guys are destroying history. Like this is people are gonna believe this is fact and just keep going with like if you're
Yeah.
younger, you don't know, but you
Yeah.
oh,
Oh yeah. That's a whole other story. That's part of like me by even like starting the podcast where it's like I need to get on there and have like whether it's and work my way up to those bands that like I want to get eventually. But it's like one of those things of like I know I will ask the questions that like because I'll look anyone I interview or whatever.
Yes.
And I'm like, I look at all their interviews. Like the other day I had someone down, he's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I went through all your old interviews and I was like, let me ask this in a different way. So you think it's a new question, but it's not. And he was just like, thank you. Like I need that. And I was like, yeah, it's like people that are in the scene, they need
And you'd
to
ask the same five
get
things
that.
over and over. Do you know, you're familiar with the greatest Canadian to ever live, the human serviette, Nardwar?
Yes, of course. Oh,
Yes. So I grew up on Nardwar, like that,
yeah.
like in Canada, like, and I just thought it was like a Canadian thing. And then I came to the States and realized like, oh, this guy's a legend.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like I went to a show yesterday and it's this artist I'm kind of working with, and it was like I was going to interview him there, but I was like, I don't want to do a 3 minute interview with you outside the venue where like I ask you, like something funny and we'd be silly. I want to do an interview with you that's 30 minutes and I get in your head by like bringing up like your 11th grade biology teacher,
Yeah.
like plus like
Mm-hmm.
I've been like being in a band and like especially as a smaller, like if you're bigger it's a big different thing because there's news and things like that going on. These people actually know you. But if you're like you're a smaller band, it's like you're literally getting asked the same 10 questions every time, like who
Mm-hmm.
plays what,
Yeah, what's your
what
name?
what influenced you to start to do, what are your influences, like where can people hear you? And it's like, where
Hmm.
they can fucking hear me, bro. Like why are you at, like this is you're the dumbest volley you're giving me, like come on,
Hmm.
like let me answer something weird.
Yeah, like that's the number one thing. Like I'll never ask, like some bands will say that, like I don't ask like why, like how did you find your name or why did you pick your name or this and that. And I'm like, I'm not gonna ask that because like one, again, maybe you've already been asked that before by someone else, but like there's only been one band I think I talked touched on their name, but that's because I learned that it was like from BoJack Horseman. And I was like, that's really, really cool. Like let's touch on
Yeah,
that.
that's
Like mental
cool.
health, you guys got it from like the halfway down poem. So it's like I get it. But other than that, I'm like, I don't know. Like we need more people that are going to be like Nardwar and like sit there. And I'm one of those people, like, even the smaller bands, they'll be like, how did you, again, go Google is your friend, your
I've done my
YouTube.
research, yes, like I
I'm
take
like,
this seriously.
yeah, like even like the smaller bands, even if they think they're smaller, I'm like, you're not smaller to me. Like you're coming on here, like you're not small to me. So it's like we do. I think as a scene, we need more people that. So I'm gonna have to try Warp Tour. I'll be like, listen, I've been going to this forever. Just trust me. But obviously too, like to kind of end it a little bit, our podcast is music and mental health. Is there a band that helped you through a difficult time in your life?
Yeah, a few. Music to me is like I didn't grow up religious at all.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like it sounds so corny, but it's like rock and roll saved my life. And
Yeah.
like when I was like 20, 21 years old, I was really, I'm a huge Gaslight Anthem fan. I love the
Mm-hmm.
Gaslight Anthem, and through the Gaslight Anthem, I found Bruce Springsteen.
Yep.
And when I found Bruce Springsteen, it was right around time like my mom was sick and I was gonna lose my mom. And it was just like this is the pastor of my life, you know what I mean? And through sadness, it'd be like Bruce is there for me. You know what I mean? Like Bruce is, even if it's like
Yeah.
nothing in the same. I mean, like the guy's never worked a real job in his life, but it's like, man, like I connect to this, like this is me, like these are feelings I have. Like this is the soundtrack of my life. And beyond that, like just every art, I once had someone tell me, I made a playlist and someone once told me like every song you listen to sounds like the last day of school in a John Hughes movie where the guy gets the girl. And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
that's the feeling I want. Like I want to feel good all the time. And it's hard to feel good all the time, like
Yeah.
this stuff is stressful. But like if a song, like you can make yourself happy with a song. Like it's almost cheating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like there's so many pinpoints of that. Like even me, like about a month ago, I'm like I went through a lot of shit, but then I was like, you know what? There's that artist. I need to go listen to this record. Like this is the one for me. And I think it's crazy how like an artist or an album can get you through that. Like there's so many records where I'm like, all right, I'm feeling shitty. I need to do this. Even if it's like Newfound Glory, I need to feel like a little happier or whatever it is. Or if I just need to be sad and like we were talking about Spanish love songs, I was like, I put on that record and like they get it. Like they get it.
Yes.
I need this. And it's like one of those things. It's yeah. I think that's everyone's thing. Like either Gaslight Anthem, you go into Bruce, or you were Bruce, or you were Gaslight Anthem, and then especially around here, Bruce is just like in New Jersey. Bruce is like,
Yeah,
boom.
I on the West Coast, and I didn't have like I didn't know. I thought Bruce Springsteen was like John Cougar Mellencamp or Bon Jovi or something. I
Yeah.
didn't realize like this is. this is the greatest artist that's ever like say whatever you want about America. I think the one thing this country has done well is music and rock and roll. And to me, it's like Bruce Springsteen is like the soundtrack of like just every story that happens in this country, like it's just every working man or woman or heartbreak or anything. It's like Bruce has a song for you there, buddy, like
Hmm. And even if you're not a big fan, like there is a song, there is one
there's
song
still
you would.
something for there's still an era. Like I thought I
Mhm.
didn't like because I didn't like Born in the USA and Glory
Hmm.
Days. And then I realized
Yeah,
like, oh wait, there's a whole 70s thing here where he's just like this weird band leader dancing around in like a beanie. Like, oh, then there's this thing where he's like kind of punk rock for a bit. And then like he's
yeah.
an old man here doing like really good folk music. Like there's a Bruce for you. You just haven't found it yet, or that moment hasn't come in your life. At some point you will walk with open arms into the heart of Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, yeah. Like especially like it's funny, like I moved here in New Jersey, people were like, because at first I was that person. I was like, I don't really like Bruce. Like I don't get the hype. I respect. I don't get the hype. And then being here and being around certain people, they're like, you gotta check out this version or check out that version. And I'm like,
Yes.
okay, now I get it. But at first I was like, yeah, it's like you said, Glory Days. I was like, this is what I would
Yeah.
listen to, like when I would wait tables at Chili's. Like, no, no,
Yeah,
like
no,
no.
yeah, no, that's not, no, there's, yeah, same thing. And like, I've only been to Jersey twice and like in passing, like I've landed in Newark and just like being in that area, I'm just like, I think this is where I was supposed to be. Like, this feels like, it must feel like a religious person, like going to like their
Oh,
Mecca, like
yeah.
this is the ground it happened on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like even me, like going to the Stone Pony for the first time, it was like,
Oh,
holy
yeah.
shit! Like this is it. And going to Asbury and seeing that, and like it is. And there's something different about the people here. I'm gonna say it. Like even like I love Chicago. I love that scene. But like the people here, truly, the people in bands I've met here, they're the most supportive. Like to me, and especially being a woman, like talking music, they're like so kind. They're taking me under their wing. Even like the
Wow.
like punk and like hardcore dudes that I'm like, okay, I was like so intimidated. And they're like, no, like you're cool. You know your shit. That's fine. It's fine. And it's like, yeah, I had it, but it was like a lot of competition in Chicago. Like if you got the better interview or if you knew the bigger band or whatever, it was always a competition. Like here, the people
Yeah.
are real here in Jersey. Like again, probably because it's such a mecca, like of emo, or even Bruce, like just everybody. Like, like who else? God.
Highest per capita of like bands. Like, I mean, you look at like the My Chems and stuff like that to like, I mean,
Yeah.
just from Bruce to Jack Antonoff and Bleachers
Oh, I
to
forget.
Vampire Weekend, stuff like that. Like, it's just there's a thing. It's just like where I think, which made sense, where it's like you're on the outskirts, you're in Jersey, you wake up and, you can look and you can see New York City in the distance. Like
Hmm.
the other side of the grass is greener and you literally can see it overshadowing you at all times and it creates this like chip on your shoulder where it's like I need to be a part of that, whatever that is over there, and I think I
Yeah.
was like that maybe makes sense. Like there's a urgency to New Jersey. Like I gotta
Hmm.
get the like the Bruce song, like, and that's pop punk and emo. Like I gotta get the hell out of this town. Like
Oh yeah, no, and that's 100% too. And I do feel like people do, especially in the bands I meet, there is that chip on their shoulder. But then they're just like the kindest people, like maybe a little
yep,
more intimidating, but I'm like they're the kindest. And I guess I know I've kept you a little longer, but like for
you're
you,
good.
before I let you go, if you could pick any band for somebody to check out that you're loving, who are you recommending to anybody listening?
My favorite pop punk band of the last 3 years is called Camp Trash.
Oh, I've never heard of them.
I know them. One of their guitarists, Keegan, is one of the best Twitter accounts, and I found him through him. He's like a way cooler version of me on Twitter. Like he's making all these recommend. They're way cooler than mine,
Yeah.
but they're awesome. They're like almost like modern baseball hooked up with newfound glory, maybe
Oh wow.
almost. Like let's say that, but they're great. Go listen to them. They're about to go on tour with a Chicago legend band, the Smoking Popes.
Wow.
Yeah, very random. They're going on tour with the Popes. I don't know because these guys I think are like they're my age or younger, I
Yeah.
think.
Wow. Yeah, going out with Smoking Popes. Wow, that's a name like
Right? Yeah,
you don't
pretty
get
cool.
here. Yeah. Wow. I'm like, that's what I gotta do later. I gotta check this out because I'm gonna have to link that because I've never heard of this band.
Can't Trash. They have one album. I wish I could tell you the name of it right now. I forgot it. There's only one album there. The Long Way, the Slow Way, or something, but it rips. Go listen to it. It rips.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to link all that. But oh my gosh, this has been so great. And like I appreciate you taking
Thank
time
you for having
and
me.
wanting to come on because like this is again someone that gets the scene, knows the scene, and yeah,
Yes,
it was so cool like to
I
connect.
was there.
Yeah, be like, yeah, listen, he was there, and I hope you get that Warp Tour thing. That would be really, really cool to have that.
Yeah,
And
we'll see. Yeah. Hopefully
yeah,
you too. They need to, yes, all of us need to just, we rise up together, all of us internet creator people that aren't Logan Paul or the punk rock NBA. We all rise up
oh,
together.
and all right, guys, that was my conversation with Rob. Again, it was such a cool conversation, and it was one of those conversations that the minute Rob came in, I was like, okay, this is so cool to connect with someone I see on a daily basis on my FYP. So it was really cool, and I know a lot of you maybe follow Rob. It's always great to get to know that person behind their content, much like when we had Matt Batista on and TJ of Our Space. It's really a great opportunity to show like these are real people, even though we know they're real people. It's a great opportunity to show that. So all links below to check out Rob. We'll follow him on TikTok and YouTube and all that. I know he's going to do some long form content to come. So I really would love to shoot some support his way. It's really cool what he's doing. And I have to shout him out because he told me at the end of this about Camp Trash. I went to go check out Camp Trash. Fantastic band. I am linking them below. Go check them out. I know a lot of you will love them as well. And I'm like, why did I never hear about this band? But thanks to Rob for that. As for our show, if you are loving this thing even just a little bit, make sure to subscribe and follow our show. It really helps support our show a lot and the guests that come on as well. It really helps you guys find them. The show is really about supporting these acts that come on as well. So I would love to make that happen for everybody that takes time and comes on the show so much, as well as a positive rating or review. It's seriously the best way you can help out any podcast is just to leave a positive rating or review. That way we know what we need to work on, what we're doing well on, all that good stuff. As for our show next week, we will be back with a great conversation with Daniel Rinaldi of Bedlight for Blue Eyes. This was such a full circle moment for me. I listened to Bedlight for Blue Eyes and hearing Daniel talk about everything he went through with being a touring musician and that mental health. It was another great opportunity, much like we had with Anthony Green, to have how do musicians and their mental health, how do they use music to cope, but also what are the negatives of touring and the industry and how that can take a toll on the artist we love. So such a great conversation. You guys will hear that next week and I can't wait to share that one. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.